Shady's back. Tell a friend. Guess we're back, guess we're back, guess we're back.
Hello there. I'm not done talking about Superman, if that's what you thought. Oh no! I mean, how can I not when there's a whole Superman series dedicated to the fact that he's a father of twins, trying and sometimes failing to be a loving father and husband while still being the greatest hero in the world? Okay. Let's slow it down a little.
Take it easy.
Now look, we'll get one thing clear. I don't pay you to tell me to take it easy. I pay you to take it easy. No, I pay you to tell you to take it easy. So take it easy.
When you hear Superman, your mind probably jumps to one of two things: superhuman strength or moral perfection. He can lift buildings, hear a whisper across continents, and save the world without breaking a sweat. But Superman and Lois makes a different argument. It suggests that Superman's greatest challenge isn't lifting the world, it's coming home. And for a CW show, choosing to focus on the human side of Clark Kent, sometimes even putting Superman on the sideline, is a feat in itself. I will say it one time. Spoilers from here on out. Let's be honest, the CW has a reputation. Teen drama, love triangles, emotional stares that last 5 to 15 seconds too long, cliffhangers designed to keep you watching at 3 a.m. while your soul quietly evaporates. Given that context, it would have been easy for Superman and Lois to follow that formula. Over-dramatized conflict, shallow storytelling, superficial spectacle, but almost immediately, the show refuses. From the opening monologue, where a middle-aged Clark walks us through his life in a rapid, heartfelt montage, we get something different. No dragged-out origin story, thank God, just memory, legacy, and responsibility delivered with confidence. And, in my opinion, it hits.
Motherfucker! You hit me in the ear!
Well, Jesus, I'm sorry.
Ow!
I fucked it up.
No, that was perfect.
The strongest parts of this show lie in the characters. This isn't about the punches thrown or meteors stopped mid-air. It's about people living with power and responsibility, and sometimes failing at both. Clark Kent isn't written as an untouchable god. He's written as a man who desperately wants to be a good father, and even so often gets it wrong. Take the pilot episode as an example, when he misses Jordan's panic attack because he's off saving a nuclear meltdown. He hears everything, but he still isn't there when it matters most. Or later on, when he tries to, air quote, fix his son's problems instead of simply listening to them. You can see the confusion on his face when emotional complexity doesn't respond to strength. He can hear a heartbeat from many miles away, sure, but he still struggles with communication. And that's the point. There's also something else here that I can't ignore. I'm not saying the show is intentionally coding Clark as autistic, and I'm definitely not diagnosing a fictional character, just so you know, but there's a certain resonance. Clark experiences the world at an overwhelming sensory level. He hears everything, and he feels everything. The world is loud, constant, inescapable, and yet, when it comes to emotional nuance, to reading between the lines, to responding in the exact way someone needs in the moment, he sometimes misses the mark. Not because he doesn't care, far from it, but rather because caring isn't the same as instinctively knowing what to say. Let's go back to the pilot episode again, where Jordan is spiraling, panicking, feeling isolated. Clark's first instinct isn't emotional mirroring, it's problem solving. It's fixing. It's stabilizing the situation.
Stability and contentment have been achieved.
Or the moment where Lois has to gently guide him toward understanding what the boys are actually feeling after something has happened. Clark loves deeply and fiercely, but he sometimes needs translation. The show often states that Clark doesn't lack empathy. He does, however, lack immediacy. He processes a lot, and he pauses a big amount. He tries to solve before he sits and lingers in the feeling. And sometimes, by the time he arrives emotionally, the moment has already shifted. That doesn't make him distant, though. It makes him human, flawed, learning. For some of us, that feels familiar. The sensation of being overwhelmed by input, the desire to do the right thing, but not always knowing the socially "correct" move, as it were. The feeling of loving people so intensely, yet worrying you're missing something you can't physically see. Whether intentional or not, the show portrays a version of masculinity and fatherhood where emotional learning is ongoing. Where missteps don't mean apathy. They just mean that you have to process things differently. And that's a really powerful thing to see, in my opinion. And that's also where Lois becomes essential. Not because Clark is incapable, but because relationships, especially long-term ones, are built on translation. Lois understands him. Not just the powers, not just the hero, but the processing, the pauses. The way he sometimes needs a second beat to catch up emotionally. There are moments where she gently redirects him, where she helps him see what the boys are actually asking for. Not by correcting him, but by grounding him. She's not his handler, she's his anchor. Speaking of Lois, thankfully, she's far from a supporting character. As I just mentioned, she's the anchor. Look at the way she handles Morgan Edge in Season 1, for example. Not with fists, but with investigation and persistence. Or the scene where she confronts her own trauma about her mother leaving. The show allows her emotional weight to breathe. In Season 3, when she faces her cancer diagnosis, the show slows down completely. No spectacle and no distraction. Just pure fear, anger, and vulnerability. Lois isn't heroic because she punches harder. She's heroic because she shows up, even when she's the one falling apart. And what makes their relationship so compelling is that the anchoring goes both ways. Clark steadies her when the world feels too heavy. She steadies him when emotions become abstract instead of immediate. It's a partnership, not a correction. One thing I love about this show is how it trusts the silence. It lets awkwardness linger. It lets mistakes matter. And that restraint is hard to find in superhero shows.
He's restrained. Very well, too. Dude! What do you mean? You good now? I'm good. Thank you. Done? I'm done.
Then we have the twins, Jordan and Jonathan, both named after Superman's fathers. Jordan isn't just, the one with powers. His arc is about anxiety, expectation, and fear. His first heat vision outburst at a party isn't triumphant. It's terrifying. His panic attack in the pilot, that's not superhero spectacle. That's a kid overwhelmed by his own body. Jonathan, meanwhile, spends much of Season 1 and 2 wrestling with identity. When he loses football, when he experiments with X-Kryptonite in Season 2, trying so desperately to measure up, that's not villainy, that's insecurity. He's not the powerless sibling. He is the sibling trying to exist without the destiny handed to him, as he doesn't really get powers until later on. And these details aren't plot devices. They're emotional engines. So, why do these moments resonate? Because the show escalates emotionally instead of physically. Yes, there are world-ending threats, Kryptonian invasions, alternate realities, catastrophic stakes even. But some of the most powerful scenes are much smaller. For example, there's a scene where Clark is sitting at the edge of Jordan's bed, clearly trying to say the right thing. You can see him searching, measuring his words, wanting so badly to connect. But he's not quite sure which emotional door to knock on first. There's no swelling hero music, no grand speech either, just a father trying, and sometimes fumbling his way towards his son. Or Lois and Clark having a quiet argument, just two exhausted adults standing under the soft lighting, choosing their words carefully because they love each other too much to be careless. The tension between them isn't explosive, it's restrained. And that restraint makes it even heavier. Or Jonathan silently realizing he feels invisible. You can see it in the way the camera lingers just a second too long. The way no one in the room notices the shift in his expression. It's the show sinking awareness of being left out of something bigger than yourself. Those are the moments that stick. In a genre obsessed with scale, this show understands intimacy. A glance carries weight. A pause carries weight. A mistake carries weight. And because the show doesn't rush to resolve those mistakes, since they truly matter, they linger. They carry on to the next moment, and they shape the next interaction that takes place. Emotional consequences aren't reset at the end of the episode. The escalation isn't in how hard someone gets punched. It's in how deeply someone feels. Now, to be fair, not every story beat lands perfectly though. Not every villain arc is airtight or consistently riveting. There are moments where the plotting wobbles, where the external stakes feel less sharp than they could be. But strangely, that's not what defies the show. Because even when the spectacle fluctuates, the relationships don't. The emotional core remains as steady as ever. And that consistency matters more. Yes, this is a CW show. And yes, that network is known for glossy teen drama and overly formulaic storytelling. But Superman and Lois quietly defies that expectation. The cinematography is cinematic. The pacing is restrained. The writing trusts its audience. You don't feel manipulated into the drama, you feel invited to it.
Do you really think you need to worry about redoing these cabinets if this is going to be a nursery for a kid that you don't even have?
Yeah.
Are you pregnant?
Is this a joke?
And when the show chooses to lean into a villain, especially someone like Lex Luthor, it understands that menace isn't about power levels, it's about ideology. It's about obsession. This version of Lex doesn't just hate Superman because he can't match him physically. He resents what Superman represents as a whole. And that makes the conflict personal, not just physical, intimate, not just explosive. And even then, he's not just a villain for Superman to take on. He's a villain for the entire family to handle. And unless someone told you, you might not even guess it's a CW production. That's part of what makes it truly remarkable. What makes Superman and Lois special isn't the villains or the powers, it's the humanity the show brings. The spectacle may rise and fall, the threats may change, but the relationships remain. And that steadiness is what gives the show its weight. The show doesn't ask, what if Superman was realistic? It rather asks, what if being human was the hardest thing Clark had to do? For once, Superman isn't inspiring because he can lift the world over his head. He's inspiring because he shows up for dinner. Because he apologizes for his mistakes. Because he tries again no matter how many times he fails. And somehow, that feels more heroic than anything else I have seen in a long time. That's all I had for today. Thank you so much for watching. Farewell for now.